Thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. Yes, I am indeed from the UNCCD, originally from Malawi, and I am a Malawian, but I also have spent most of my life in South Africa, like you have heard from working for Hannah, working for the South African government largely, and also a few things here and there in the development space. So I'm here at the UNCCD, heading the unit that deals with innovation, technology, and science. And indeed, heading, I also coordinate the work of the two subsidiary bodies. Yeah, by training, I've got a bit of a menu of what I did, but at least landscape architecture was my first degree. So, and then I also did a few other things that included town and regional planning. So, I would like to extend a vote of thanks to Dr. Anna Katrina Orange, Director of IDOS, Dr. Tina, Interfaces Leader at ZEF, and Dr. Kasten Hess, Head of Division at BMBF. I got it right this time, right? Thank you very much. And all my co-presenters that are going to go into the substantive issues after myself. I have noted Dr. Hannah Jenike, apologies for my pronunciations, I think from ZEF, Dr. Frank Tonfeld, from DLR, Dr. Sophie Kraife, and then I also see Professor Dr. Bridget Kaufman. And then obviously there's a Frederick and Karina. I would like to extend thanks to those of you and that are here, but also those that have joined us online. We are running late with time, so I'll try and be very quick with my long presentation and go into these things that really maybe matter for this presentation. Oh, this one, yes, thank you. So, yeah, in our team, I have a whole lot of scientists behind me because I am wandered into administration, so I'm a bureaucrat per se. So unfortunately, Professor Baron O, who is our chief scientist, is also on a mission, but he helped in getting me here, and a few others that are not here in our unit. So if there are any follow-up questions on things, if I cannot handle them, I will defer them to my colleagues. So that's the lineup of my presentation, as you can see. But we should start by saying context is always important when we are dealing with issues. So this presentation, we tried to make it within the context of Africa, and the background of this slide tells you the different colors that actually context does matter. So I would like, as we thought we should start by giving you context. My title, as you can see, is about the need to accelerate innovation in the implementation of land-based solutions in sub-Saharan Africa. But what is the context within which we are operating? So it is very clear, if you see this slide, that the outlook of the growth performance of Africa by region has been very positive, kind of. The growth may have slowed, but in general, it has been positive. I'm talking after COVID. So in general, it's been going up. The statistics, the figures and numbers are there, all right? It is still positive growth. You can see what the map of Africa is saying. However, if you go to the next slide, it is not all good news because, you know, the current projections from the pre-COVID times to where we're going forward show that the extreme poverty levels, and my African colleagues will attest to this, is actually become worse. And it's projected to become worse if nothing is done about it. Moving towards 2035 is being projected to become worse. So we can't sit and relax and think that all will be good. Now, I recall when our government colleague was speaking here, he highlighted something that land use in sub-Saharan Africa is facing many challenges. And I can attest to that. It is facing many challenges. So when we see young people and researchers like yourselves who are here and those that are online trying to grapple with these things, we are very encouraged because we can't deal with the problems in sub-Saharan Africa that we have, and I'm sure everywhere else in the world without good research there. So these are the figures. The estimated impact of food and energy price inflation on extreme poverty. All right, when I talked about the pre-COVID times, but you understand that also the conflict in Russia and Ukraine has contributed to this, and if we don't do our things correctly moving forward, it's going to be a problem. So research is key to this. So this is how the picture looks like in terms of the estimated impact of food and energy price inflation and extreme poverty. This is the picture. The presentation is with the organizers. You can always get the details later. In the interest of time, I can't go into all the details. But there's one thing I need to mention, is this one, gender inequalities. Because most of you as researchers, you do your research and forget the real things that matter. There are things that get overlooked because we concentrate on the big things, right? But we forget that there are small things, and those who come from Africa, I'm seeing you in the audience and some are online, you know what I'm talking about. Because it's our mothers there and our grandmothers there that are actually on the ground, and we overlook them. So I'm encouraging you as researchers that if we don't address gender inequalities in whatever we do, we are not going to achieve sustainable development as projected. That's my first appeal to yourselves. And the next slide tells you on what addressing gender inequalities can bring. Again, I go back to my African colleagues. You can relate to what is here, the pictures that are here. It will help in bringing food security, improving livelihoods and all that. But there's another factor we should not forget, is these guys. So I see a lot of youth here and online. If we don't factor in the youth, we have also lost the battle. Because the Southern Africa here, from what we've written here, is that youth employment remains a barrier to development in sub-Saharan Africa. And when you look at what happens in the Sahel and everywhere else, I think it's 77% statistically that the youth form the population of the youth comprise 77%, I think, of the population of Africa on average, and that's huge. And if we don't bring them into the equation, we have lost a plot. So I'm speaking as an African. I used to be youth one day, and I hope one day I'll also be youth again. I don't know. You never know, eh? Yeah? Yeah, so we need to engage the youth in the value chains, and as you can see, because these are the ones that can link, can get everything, what can help us achieve economic development. All right, so, but then if we look at what has come up in the studies, for example, the African Economic Outlook tells us about how vulnerability does weaken climate resilience, all right? But then there is good news for Africa, as you can see, is the least climate resilient region in the world. There is a bad news and the good news. The least climate resilient, but sub-Saharan Africa itself has a bit of an exception there. So if I go to, I didn't match my presentation with moving the slides. So this is what I was talking about just now. And then if we go to the next one, it's a map. We brought in drought because you know drought is a big issue. And it's not one that has spared any any economy. This one we can all agree. This one we can all agree, thank you so much. This one we can all agree that it hasn't spared any economy. So here is a picture for Africa, but you can also see what is happening in the Mediterranean. The picture says it all. So that also is another dimension we need to have. But then the good news is that biodiversity, at least for sub-Saharan Africa, is very high, all right? And as you can see, the east and the southern part has something to offer there around, sheltering the greatest diversity of large mammals in the world. It's a good news. But this good news also comes with a little bit of caution, because there is a risk, and there are the red flags, as you can see from that slide. And then, complemented by that, there's a slide that I'm showing you here, which shows you the downward trend of species survival up to at least 2015. Then, the trends that we have in protecting key biodiversity areas are there. Okay, it does show that we have increased significantly, in biodiversity protected areas covered. But it still represents a small, tiny percentage of what needs to be done, as you can see there, 29%. So that's, if we bring in the energy dimension, this is what you need to know. That we are kind of caught up in a vicious cycle here, because as you can see, 10% of global hydropower potential in Africa, is only a fraction of what has been developed. But look at bullet number 4, flooding. I've skipped the other one about electricity demand and all that. It increases reliance on, land, flooding and all these issues could pose significant risks to security of supply of hydropower. So this area this map doesn't cover everything that you would want to have in Africa, but you can see the parts that have been indicated there. It's not a good picture there, all right? So more on hydropower and the potential that has been listed there in some countries for hydropower, for energy production. Right, then that's more of the same about renewable energy, but we need to go to land-based solutions, which normally come in many flavors. But what I'm trying to tell you here at the end of what I'll say is that at the end of the day, it's one thing. It's one thing, it's about sustainable land management. So there we go, about nature-based solutions. It's a new term. However, it's got all these many flavors. It can be called ecosystem-based adaptation, eco-DRR, sustainable land management, but it's all one. The good news is a term that has been embraced, at least from our side. We know that scientists like yourselves have embraced it, practitioners and policymakers, who are the ones who actually make the, the scientists as you are here, and those online and everyone else can do a great job. But the problem is if the policymakers don't buy in, that's it. So for us, we know the UNEA, there's a decision around this, as you can see, about the nature-based solutions and all that. The decision of UNEA there, I put it there. And then this is a governing body of UNEA, right? And then the UNCCD has also empowered us to work on these issues. So we, as from the UNCCD side, I brought a brochure here. And you can see what we do, even if you go on the Google, you can Google us and find us, what do we do? But one thing I want to highlight is that I can say this without fear of contradiction. Climate change will not be achieved. There was no, we are part of the 3 Rio Conventions. The Climate Change Convention, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and the UNCCD. We were born at the same time. I can assure you, nothing that we're doing in climate change or biodiversity space can be achieved without UNCCD, without land. Because the issue at the end of the day is land. Now tell me which of those 17 goals of SDGs can be achieved without land? Nothing. You can't achieve food security, there's no infrastructure, there is no poverty, this and that, nothing. So land is a key. That's why we bring in land degradation neutrality, which you know about, I hope, through target 15.3, and I'm not going to read out verbatim what it is, right? And then it offers a response hierarchy, which is avoid, reduce, and reverse. And this has also been complemented by what is going through in the UNEA space, in the, and the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. Okay, so it is an interactive, integrative value addition to nature-based solutions. And you can see what EBM and CAS and SLM, EBA, EcoDRR, as you go up, and what the UNCCC and everything we seek to achieve, but the ultimate goal is sustainable development. So there's better news still because of coherence that is there. I'm trying now to rush because I know that time is not going to be on our side. And then the fact that these approaches are highly compatible, that has to be celebrated and that has to be embraced. So just by way of examples, here are the compatibility examples. The definitions of EBA, for example, this is what, and SLOM and NBS and EcoDRR, they're all here. You can have a good look at the presentation later. But even the goals that we are trying to achieve are also quite aligned. I just take the last one, for example. The ultimate goal is sustainable development. And you see what the SLM tries to achieve, EBA and EcoDRR. These are one and the same things. They just characterize differently. And then those are the compatible approaches, as I've said, SLM, EcoDRR, and what, in terms of officially, what they seek to achieve is all there. All right, I'm not going to read that to you, and more of that. Now here we come to the technologies that are also in sync, okay? Because SLM approach is a technology about land-based management practice. Yet at the same time, EBA embraces this hard, soft, and organization options. And then you see EcoDRR refers to technical, which is also hard, tech, and soft, and all that. So these approaches are also in sync. That's nothing that is happening outside there. It's just characterized differently. And then we thought we should give you an idea of the compatible implementation characteristics of them. If you just pick one, for example, people-centeredness, then you see that everything else that the other initiatives are trying to do is being addressed by that. Adaptivity, adaptive capacity, continuous learning, and process-oriented. You find that all that is there. So those are the examples that you can have a look at some point in time as scientists and researchers. Yeah, and then, of course, there would be minor differences here and there if we are talking to specific goals, but at the end of the day, the bigger picture is the same. The sum is always bigger than what? The same? Than the parts, yeah? Yeah. So what we're trying to say, that's what I said at the beginning, is that the main issue here is that many land-based solutions involve one or more sustainable land management technologies. If we can take that as a message home, you have taken something from us. Then we know that land-based solutions also employ common measures, irrespective of the approach. For example, terminology may vary, but it includes issues of soft technologies, organizing technologies, and hard technologies. So this is the sum of everything else I've said thus far. No matter what the flavor is, land-based solutions can and should deliver multiple benefits and support the missions of the three Rio Conventions. Go back to this slide later on yourselves to just see how everything else comes together. So anyone else, even yourselves as researchers, can be engaged in anything else, but we are all working towards land-based solutions. Then we have this work at, yeah. Michael, are you here? Yeah. You know these people, right? Yes. So work at, in a relationship with the UNCCD, because the parties decided and agreed that we need to work with them. So I see that they offer a good platform. I'm not here to market them, but I'm just telling you what is there that you should be aware about and how you can get into the mix. So this is what WOCAT is. It's there on the screen. I don't want to read it for you. You can visit it there. But just at least key to understand that it's an established global network that supports innovation and decision-making processes in SLM. And you are doing the same. And this is what WOCAT provides. It provides tools, that identify fields and needs for action. All right? It does a whole lot of things. And because we work with them, they were agreed to by our parties. So here we go with what WOCAT does. It provides easy access to over 2,000 best practices. Last time we were on the system, and I think if you look at LDN, which seeks to reduce, reverse, and avoid land degradation, then you see the best practices are there. I want to quickly go and find the best practices, so I'm not going to belabor you on all many of these things. Okay, with a collaboration with us as the UNCCD, and agreed at the parties, at the conference of the parties. And I mentioned the issue of them being the fact that they are and they work with the network of partners. Okay, then contributing to SLM. Now, all this I'll go through. I'll just pass what I would like to get to. Yeah, maybe this will be of interest to you. You can become an individual member to WOCAT, but you can also become an organization member to WOCAT. So these are these slides, if you get hold of them, they will show you how you do that. But I can tell you, join the party. All right? Now, the other thing is that it's also whatever WOCAT is doing has a central role to play in these things of the UN decade on ecosystem restoration. You know those ecosystem types. And then this is the beauty. I am just going to say that WOCAT, people, when it was in its early stages, I was then a delegate of South Africa. We used to criticize it and say, these are just based on agriculture. They're just focusing on agriculture. But WOCAT does, you can see in their database, they have all different ecosystem types: farmlands, forests, grasslands, mountains, freshwater, and all that. So the message I would like to give to you is that SLM works in all sub-Saharan African ecosystems. We have good practices in the WOCAT database, for example, in farmlands. As you can see there, we have good practices in rangelands, in forests, in coastal zones, in wetlands and peatlands, in freshwater, in urban areas. That's the beauty. So that takes me to my next section, land-based solutions and tech transfer, the innovation part. So we as a UNCCD, we don't do these things alone, but we work with multiple stakeholders. But the idea is the promotion and facilitation of access to appropriate technology, knowledge, and know-how through diffusion, for example, of more mature technologies, which I know this is the same that you as at IDOS are doing. These are the kind of things that you are also exploring either in West Africa or just at research level, So this is some of the things we do. And there is some of the projects that we can do, like one of them is nurturing development pathways or financial and market mechanisms. That's what we do in technology transfer. But the key thing that you must take home here is that you shouldn't miss this equation of vertical simulation, because you have to stimulate vertical innovation from early research and development, where you guys are sitting, to fully commercial. And then in between, you've got the science and research, business cases and markets. But then the horizontal arm of it is equally important, because it talks to the issue of having technology available in the right context. I hope that is kind of clear. So these are the things we do. We just highlighted one example of the global efforts or other countries' efforts to try and seed innovation and technology transfer simultaneously, try to bring the two different aspects. So a good example that we could find is this of desert tech that is happening there in the Negev desert in Israel. And this is being also upscaled in the Sahel, and is something that you should keep an eye on. And this is the type of thing that we need to make sure that sustainable development is truly, sustainable land management is a truly integrative, but also it addresses, it becomes as something that addresses fully the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, this is a meeting that I had recently there. One of our colleagues from Knowledge Management was there. And then data innovation, I come to, I think this would be my last part, I suppose, data-driven innovation. Because everything that we do these days, knowledge is power and data is power. And I know that most people like myself who are policymakers, we like to, and bureaucrats and administrators, we like to say science and data is boring. But it's the science that you generate, it's the data that you generate that should now spur innovation. So a good example is this one. We were working with partners like this FAO. There's this one that we call Africa Open Deal. I'm sure you know about it. If you don't know how that tool works, come to me. And then this one that we are doing with the group on Earth observations. All right. This is this is another one where we have a mandate from our conference of parties around addressing the interoperability gaps. You know, then that brings me back to link this with our initiatives with LDN and how the whole space of LDN degradation neutrality and the geospace, they call it the Geo-LDN initiative, which is actually a flagship. It's all there. LDN is a governance issue at the end of the day. It's a land governance issue. I bring everybody together. So it's multi-stakeholder driven, including yourselves. All right? And this is a pool of most of the people we work with. You know, they are all the partners and the tools that are available out there. It's not just WOCAT. There are all these that are here. You can see them, land PKs, Trans.Earth. Trans.Earth has been very key to our national reporting processes in the UNCCD, which is ongoing right now. Yeah, look for LDN and all that. And this one, interfaces, is right here, right? Interfaces is here. Can we raise our hand? Where are we? Yes. So interfaces is here. Then we go to these are the enablers of LDN, like I've said. It's stakeholder driven, it's global in scope. But my colleague from government, because I used to work for government, thanks to the German government, because they gave us that seed funding, a lot of money in this initiative, which has given it the catalytic energy that is required to move it forward. Thank you so much. With that, I want to finish by offering you an invitation, all of you as researchers, that you just read it for yourself. Yeah, because if you seek the broader impact of your research, then you invite you to the table. You come to the party, because you can do whatever you need to do, but if you're not part of the networks, because all these tools I've shown you, the platforms, land PKS and all that, they're places you must be, either as an individual or as an organization. Come to the table, because speaking biblically, there was even the Lord's Supper. Who was never there, they missed out. So come to the table and join and be part of what's going on in the world, so that your research can have the intended impact. Alone you can do it. That's what we say in Africa, right? With that, I thank you, and I hope I've stayed within my time. Thank you.